Welcome to Game Theorem, where we have serious discussions about absurd entertainment.
You have no control who lives, who dies, who tells your story. George Washington, the first president. I'm Kyle.
I'm Kira.
And we're doing Hamilton again for our revisit.
We're doing Act 2 now.
Yes. Now, some of you might be wondering why this episode came out a little later than usual, and why we're doing a revisit follow-up to Hamilton right after doing the initial episode. Both of us got very sick.
Yep.
And you might be able to tell that in our voices. It's probable. We apologize up front, but we still got to do an episode, so we're doing that for you. You're welcome.
I don't think anyone cares.
Well, we have some people that care. Don't be so down on our fans. So we're going to be doing the second act of Hamilton. We'll be finishing out this tale, and I'm really excited for it. I think Hamilton is really good.
Yeah.
And we can see the disappointment of America. Yay! So, you want to go ahead and get started? Do you have any thoughts you want to talk about, Kira?
I remember when I introduced this to you. I'm not sure how much you liked it when I first introduced it, but it's amazing. I love it.
I liked it a lot. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
All right, so the first song is What Did I Miss?
Yay.
What did I miss?
So last time we talked about the ambassadors to France. We talked about Lafayette and Ben Franklin. Now we're introduced to Thomas Jefferson.
Yay.
So first of all, the beat starts off with the standard Hamilton bit.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. You know, the same kind as in the very first song. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it's skipped forward now. We're now under the Constitution, right?
Yep.
We're in the 1780s. And we've shown mostly Northern American characters so far. Jefferson is very South.
Yep.
Very South. And you'll find that the Southerners don't like the centralized government so much. They've gone along with it, but they want to try to impede it as much as possible.
Yep.
And you could say states' rights and crap, but the real reason, slavery.
Yeah.
And Jefferson's a slave owner. They really subtly do a dig at that in the song, where Jefferson gets a letter from Washington saying to join the presidency and whatnot, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, "Oh, Sally, why don't you be a lamb and open it?" He's talking about his slave, Sally Hemings.
I see.
Anyway, I also love how the song talks about how, like with Hamilton, because, you know, Hamilton's the Secretary of the Treasury, right? Mm-hmm. Under Washington. Jefferson gets invited to be the Secretary of State by Washington, right? Mm-hmm. And the song says, "There's another man, you haven't met him yet, because this guy's been kicking it as the ambassador to France, but someone came along to, like Hamilton, to resist him, to anger him until we had a two-party system." Oh, and we also are introduced to Madison, who's Jefferson's friend.
Oh, yeah.
Who's another Southerner who has been trying to fight for the South or whatnot. He's only reasonable in comparison to Jefferson.
Yeah.
So let's see how this goes. Next is going to be a cut song called No John Trumbull.
Yep.
No John Trumbull.
So that was basically had just like the Founding Fathers did not get along.
Yes. This basically acts as an interlude into the next song. But John Trumbull was basically the famous painter, one of the most famous ones of the Founding Fathers and whatnot. And as the style of the times was, always tried to make them look regal and aristocratic and everything, as if it was peaceful debates, which is a myth that still sticks with us today. Thanks a lot. And in reality, no, they were yelling and arguing all the time. Like I said in the last episode, it was common for people to just yell and speak for hours straight.
Yeah.
And so they're gonna frame the cabinet meetings as like rap battles, which is gonna be awesome.
Yes.
And this has also a little interlude where they do a dig at John Adams, the vice president.
Yeah.
Because the position's completely useless.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it was literally designed that way. It's literally just backup president.
Yeah.
Did you know the vice president only votes in case of a tie?
Oh, yeah.
That's the only time the vice president literally does anything that's actually stipulated in the position.
Wow.
The rest of it's just PR. Anyway, so now we're going to get to the real thing. Cabinet battle number 1.
Cabinet meeting.
This is one of the really good ones. I love this one.
Why?
Because, like, the rap battle is really cool. Like, oh, what, you trying to give me a civics lesson? You're a slaver. We know why your debts are paid.
Yeah.
You don't pay for labor.
So, just to lay out the plot, Hamilton is proposing running a deficit and establishing a national bank. Basically, instead of having the states all have their individual debts, want to conglomerate all under one federal debt and use like lending and borrowing and whatnot to be in debt to other countries. And it's actually, like, he was right. Like, it was a smart plan. I'm not going to say whether it was like a right plan, a good plan, but it worked. Like,
Yeah.
the whole point is basically like, if you're indebted to other nations, then they're going to want to do business with you so you can pay up your debt.
Yeah.
And it will give you legitimacy as an independent country. And yeah, it worked. His financial plan that he's proposing here is sound. And Jefferson is opposing it, with Madison in the South and whatnot, because they're like, well, the Southern states aren't in nearly as much debt as the Northern ones, so why should we do it? And Hamilton's like, your debts are paid because you have slaves. You don't pay for labor.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, Jefferson's being completely disingenuous with this here.
Yeah.
And by the way, Jefferson is like negging on Hamilton. He's like ha 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 in the battle, and like Madison is just like such a
Sidekick.
like a almost like
Hype
a
man.
hype man to Jefferson. Jefferson's like, I don't even know how I bring the thunder. And
Why even bring the thunder?
yeah, and Madison's like, how he even brings the thunder.
It's hilarious.
And then like Washington has a talking to with Hamilton, like, hey, you need to work with these people and compromise and get something through. You don't have the votes. And Hamilton's like, they don't even have a plan. They don't have an alternative. They just hate mine.
Yeah.
Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, exactly. I like that because it's like, yeah, that's how it is. They'll just oppose things without even considering that we need something to solve this problem.
Yeah, those types of politicians. Bleh.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the cabinet battle. Hamilton eventually does kind of get his way. Next is going to be next is going to be take a break.
Take a break.
And thus Hamilton's first mistake.
Yeah, so this song is like temporally all over the place. I think it's basically just catching you up on Hamilton's like love life and family life over the course of his tenure in the Washington administration. We see his son Philip is older. He's a kid now. He seems to have multiple children, but Philip is the eldest, so he's like the one that's talked about the most. Eliza's doing fine, but Eliza's like, I want to spend more time with family, right? And then Hamilton can't stop writing Angelica, kind of like having her on the side, and there's some romantic tension there. But even Angelica, who's like, no, your work is very important, keep doing it, but maybe also family time.
Yeah.
And Angelica ends up coming to visit, and Eliza wants to go visit their father in like this big mansion. Hamilton refuses to go. Hamilton's like, I got too much work to do. Oh, they also make time to dunk on John Adams again.
Yeah, which is funny.
Please remind Eliza that John Adams doesn't have a real job anyway.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, he decides not to go with them upstate, and that is the beginning of the end.
Yeah, he really should. try to appease them somehow. I get your work is important, but family
He should have gone with them at least for some part of the summer, even if he couldn't have been there the entire time.
I don't know what the solution would have been, but something. Come on.
Yeah.
It was always family or a work at the expense of family. Mm-hmm. I also want to point out that when Eliza and Angelica are reunited, they do a refrain from the Schuyler Sisters song.
Yeah.
And they go, Angelica, Eliza. And it's silent for a moment because Peggy's dead.
Yeah.
She died in childhood from an illness, I think, right?
Yeah, scarlet fever, if I remember correctly.
And that's sad, and it's poignant. I like that they had that silence there. But it kind of is just reminding you at how casual and common death is. Mm-hmm. And that makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
All right, next is Say No to This.
Yep.
Say no to this.
So that was one of Hamilton's biggest mistakes.
Yep.
I like how the chorus is just saying the no part. I feel like the audience is screaming at him not to do it.
Oh, yeah, it's brilliant. Because, so Hamilton ends up starting an affair with Mrs. Reynolds. And it's like, you have two already, and you refuse to make time for them. So now, you're all sad and lonely at work and everything. And there's another woman there. And he's like, oh, please help me say no to this. And the chorus, the audience are like, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
Because, it's infidelity. He's betraying his wife. And I know it's a little victim blaming on her. But, later when you find out that Mr. Reynolds ends up using this to try to blackmail and extort Hamilton, you're kind of left wondering, was she in on it or not?
Yeah.
And you don't really know. Either way, I still think she's a victim. Mm-hmm. Because, look at the society of this time, right? Mm-hmm. Either he was using her to make money off of Hamilton, or she really did just like him. Mm-hmm. And then her husband, decided to be opportunistic and exploit them.
Yep.
Either way, even though Hamilton does the deed, he ends up paying the guy off to try to keep it quiet. Now he has an illicit affair that's in secrets and all that.
Yep.
Any other comments you want to make?
No.
I do feel sorry for the woman for what it's worth.
Yeah. Next is The Room Where It Happens.
The room where it happens.
I really like this song because it's one of the songs where, the song is literally written out of, we know nothing about exactly what happened.
Yes, this is actually one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And it is about probably one of the shadiest deals in U.S. history, where Hamilton, in order to get his financial plan through, made a deal on behalf of the North with the South by trading the capital. This is when the capital moves from New York to Washington, D.C., which, as you would know, would be carved out of what was once Virginia, Jefferson's home state.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people were from Virginia, so it was this shady compromise that wasn't officially against the rules, but it was basically trading votes. Mm-hmm. Saying, you agree to our thing here, we'll agree to your thing there.
Quid pro quo.
Exactly. So Hamilton's already had his fall from grace. He talks to Burr, and Burr's like, hey, what's going on? And Hamilton says, oh, well, I'm going to talk less, smile more. And it is so creepy hearing Hamilton say that. It's like, no, that's Burr's thing. You don't do that, Hamilton. You do that. You do that. But then Hamilton does it, and Burr's like freaking out. He's like, I want to be in the room where it happened. Well, no one knows what would happen going down in the room where it happened, you know?
Yeah, literally no one knows. There are no records of what happened during this meeting.
Exactly, because it was shady. But then Hamilton confronts Burr about that. Burr's like, how could you do this? And Hamilton's like, well, I needed to get what I wanted done, and I got it done. I wasn't against the rules, but I did it. And he's like, "What are you gonna do, Burr? What will you fall if you don't stand for nothing? What would you fall for? You'll get nothing if you wait for it." He directly challenges Burr on his philosophy, and Burr has an existential crisis about that. This is what his song is. This is his origins as a villain.
Because that's what he wants. He wants something.
Yeah, he's always been waiting for what? And Hamilton, upon asking him, Burr goes, "Well, I want to be in the room where it happens."
Yeah.
And then this is a change in Burr. Burr has basically woken up to his own desires.
Yeah.
How long has he been waiting and waiting for what? Well, let's find out. The next song will be Schuyler Defeated.
Yep.
Grandpa just lost his seat in the Senate.
So this is when Burr switches parties for his political ambition.
Yeah, they find out that Burr joined the Democratic Republicans, which is Jefferson's party now, which is opposing the Federalists, which Hamilton is part of. Mm-hmm. This is when the political parties start manifesting into a thing.
Yeah.
And Burr immediately, he's always been opportunistic, but now he's aggressively opportunistic. He has something in mind.
Yeah, so he ran for Schuyler's Senate seat and won.
Yeah, and beat Hamilton's father-in-law.
Yep.
So yeah, that's basically the gist of that song. Next, we have Cabinet Battle number 2.
Mm-hmm.
The issue on the table.
So this is the battle about France.
This one is really hard for me, actually. Because, Hamilton's already been, doing worse and worse and worse. And this time, I actually agree with Jefferson.
Yeah, I think they should help. I don't get the treaty thing. Why would you sign a treaty with a king to help in case of a revolution?
Okay. Basically, when America was doing its revolution against Britain, they turned to France, Britain's enemy, right? Mm-hmm. And France, under the King of France, King Louis, said, "Okay, we'll help you out, but there's a revolution brewing in my country. If that happens, you have to help me out."
So they would have been fighting on the king's side?
Yes.
What?
But that's the thing. The French Revolution was very complicated and messy.
Yeah.
And for all of his faults, Jefferson is kind of like a libertarian, like a right-wing libertarian.
I suppose so, yeah.
And that he doesn't like centralized government, and he really does care about the concept of democracy and freedom and whatnot, even if he only applies it to white men. Mm-hmm. Because really, his whole bias is slavery.
Yeah.
So he, the French people are white, so he really wants the French people to be free, and so he wants America to intervene on the side of the people.
Yeah. And
because his view is, yeah, we agreed to help France. We didn't say which side of France we would help.
I guess, yeah.
And the king is dead, so it's really hard to help his side unless you're just going to help support the aristocracy.
Yeah. I will say that at the end when Hamilton's like, "Oh, Lafayette will be fine." Spoiler alert, nope. He ends up jailed for the rest of his life, as from what I remember.
Yeah, which to me just seals the deal that Hamilton is wrong in this regard.
Yeah.
And that Jefferson is actually right this time. Mm-hmm. Hamilton and Washington ended up saying no to Jefferson's idea. They say, no, we're too fragile to do a war and whatnot. To me, this sounds very modern and American interventionism.
Yeah.
The people who wrote this, the time it came out, it was 2015, right? It seems to me maybe the authorial intent was that Hamilton was right. Maybe the intent was aha, see? Once upon a time, America knew better than to just get involved in wars across the world. This is good, actually. But this is coming from a perspective of a people that have been mired in unjust wars for 20 years in the Middle East.
Yeah, that's true.
I think sometimes people lose sight that, no, there are such things as just wars. I don't know, just wars are an iffy phrase, but I mean, come on, fighting for freedom in a revolution from a king? What more could you empathize with? Mm-hmm. Again, I don't think Jefferson would have done it right either, but I do think he happened to come out on the right side this time. Mm-hmm. This one's complicated. I guess
it really is. Let's move on. Come on.
Yeah. Washington on your side.
Oh crap, we forget about the end. We'll talk about it later.
What?
When he said, "Ooh, daddy's calling."
Yeah. Because how, like, Hamilton only has power because Washington supports him.
Yeah.
Washington on your side.
This is basically just Thomas Jefferson and James Madison whining about how Washington helps Alexander.
Yeah, because they hate Hamilton, but Washington always supports him. And they're like, oh, lucky you. If it wasn't for Washington here, you wouldn't be in power. Which is true, but the entire thing is, Washington and Madison just complaining about everything Hamilton supports that they hate. Mm-hmm. Basically, they come to the conclusion that, okay, you know what? There's got to be something shady going on with Hamilton. Let's look into him. Let's find some dirt on him. Mm-hmm. So that they can try to leverage him, blackmail him, or extort him. Of course they would do that. Of course they would.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, Kira?
Nope.
Really?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Next one is Cabinet Battle 3. This is a special one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hope the next generation thinks of something better.
So this is kind of...
This is the slavery one.
Yeah. Because Hamilton is an abolitionist, and he wants them not to waste the time that they agreed upon in the Constitution.
Yeah, in the Constitution, they basically just kicked the can down the road. They didn't answer the question of slavery.
Mm-hmm. And
The most it says is that by a certain year that they would stop importing slaves.
well, they didn't say that. They would say that they would bring it up then and figure out what to do.
Oh yeah,
then.
yeah, they would maybe consider it.
Yeah, and the Thomas Jefferson brings this up. He's like, well, okay, if you want to free everyone, we can't cure prejudice, so
No,
what do
that-
you want to do with them?
No, that's Madison saying that.
No, it was Jefferson.
No. Jefferson is basically like, yay, slaves. Madison is kind of a little centrist-y, being like, do they get another state? Do we ship them back to Africa? What do we do with them? And Hamilton's like, slavery is bad. Slavery's bad.
Yeah, he basically is like, slavery is awful, so I don't pretend to know what we're gonna do, but I still think that we should stop it.
Oh yeah, and he does point out that, like, what would Jefferson do without his industry and without all his mistresses and without Sally Hemings? Jefferson's like, how dare you? He points out, Hamilton points out that even Washington has slaves whose descendants are going to curse our names. Hamilton's just like, I don't care how much it messes up. Let's just end it. It's wrong. Mm-hmm. And Madison's like, well, logistically, and Jefferson just has no interest in this. Mm-hmm. They ended up going with Washington sides with Madison, where he proposes that, look, I'll reassure the South that we'll stop importing from Africa.
No. He says he reassures the South that we won't do anything until 1808, but we'll tell the North that on January 1st of 1808, we'll stop importing.
Yes, which they do.
Yeah.
And so they're like, they'll handle the worst of it. And Hamilton's like, yeah, but in the 1800s, the slave population in America will double.
Yeah.
And Washington's just like, let's kick it down the road again. Let's hope the next generation thinks of something better.
Yep.
Which is just infuriating.
Yeah.
And then at one point, Madison calls out Hamilton. He's like, hey, because Hamilton brought up Sally Hemings, right? And Madison goes, speaking of Jefferson's mistresses, do you really want to have that conversation? Mm-hmm. Indicating they know something.
Yeah.
Incriminating. So let's go to one last time now and continue this.
Mm-hmm.
One last time.
I like the beginning of this where he's like, whatever it is, Jefferson started it. Like they're both children and Washington is their dad.
Yeah, so we're at the end of the Washington administration and Jefferson has resigned to run for president.
Yep. This one of my least favorite of the songs. It's just kind of bleh.
Yeah, I think the way Washington went out was commendable. I argue that one of the best things that Washington ever did was choosing to not run for a third term.
Yes, I agree with you there. I just,
Because, like, a democracy such as this had been almost untried in the world,
Yeah.
at least on this scale. And the idea that he would just abdicate and not run again was unheard of. It would have been very easy for him to just become a king in everything but name and to always run.
Yep.
I mean, especially because, there was no popular vote, electoral college, yay.
Yeah.
So I just feel like that would have been really easy, and he didn't do that.
Yeah.
Furthermore, he writes against the concept of parties, partisan politics.
He has no idea how right he was.
And he does also eventually free his slaves.
Yeah. If all the presidents were in a room, George Washington would be the one screaming at them all, being like, I told y'all about them parties.
So this is just basically a farewell song to Washington.
Yeah.
Next is I Know Him.
I know him.
So that was basically just King George finding out that they're going to have a new president, and that's going to be John Adams.
Wait, so dunking on him was a bad idea? No! This is a last final interlude from King George, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
I really like how he's gone from like the perspective of America's villain to just the troll of democracy.
Yeah.
Where
I wasn't aware that was something someone could do, seize power.
and we referenced partisan politics, and he's like, John Adams, he's gonna lead them? And basically, I just imagined him getting some popcorn, like, oh, this is going to be fun. I can't wait to watch.
Yeah.
He's just going to watch America tear itself apart now.
Yep. All right.
All right.
Next is the Adams administration.
Oh, no.
The Adams administration.
So Adams was racist, but I guess nearly everyone was at this time period.
Well, he was more racist, I guess. Anyway, he kicks out Hamilton, and so Hamilton's out of power. Hamilton ends up lashing out at John Adams, calling him out, and so those are the only two. Hamilton and Adams are the only two notable members of the Federalist Party, which isn't even like a real party per se, as opposed to just a coalition of people with similar ideas, because they predated the idea of parties.
I guess.
In fact, they're going to soon be phased out. Eventually, you're going to have the Democratic Republicans and the Whig Party.
Oh, I see.
But Hamilton is like Washington, and even Adams, they're Federalists, Federalist Papers. Remember all that?
Yeah.
Anyway, so now Hamilton's out of power. The Adams administration is his worst nightmare. You want to move on, or do you have anything else you want to say?
Nope. Let's just move on.
Okay, we know.
We know.
So this is when Hamilton has to confess to Jefferson, Madison, and Burr.
Yeah, they, as the Democratic Republicans, they confront Hamilton. They found out that he is, like, his money records don't add up. He's obviously siphoning money for something. They think it's because he's embezzling funds, and so they think he's like a corrupt politician. They're going to threaten to out him or something, but they want to blackmail and extort him. They want to get him to probably support them.
Yeah.
He instead proves, no, I'm not doing that. I'm actually just paying off this guy. I had an affair with his wife, several years ago, and I've been paying him every month. I've been using my own funds. It's completely clean. It's shameful, but clean.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay then.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Burr is such a jerk.
Yeah.
Because Hamilton knows how opportunistic Burr is, right?
Yeah.
He's like, promise me you're not going to just use this as like mudslinging against me later. And Burr basically goes, no promises.
Yep.
So whatever happens next, honestly, it's kind of on Burr.
Yep.
Just at least a bit. Because Burr could have just been like Jefferson and Madison, where they're like, oh, okay, fine. Because, Jefferson's had his share of affairs before,
Yeah.
So let's see in Hurricane.
Yep.
Hurricane.
This is like another one of my not favorites.
Why?
Because I'm just like, Hamilton, you stupid.
It's just like, say no to this. where like it uses the hurricane that he grew up, in the Caribbean, how he would always write to get out of situations. It uses as a framing device to justify his current actions. Basically, he's like, writing has always been how I do things, so I'm going to use it to solve this problem. I'm just going to straight up admit to everything and write about it and hope that people understand.
Yeah.
People don't.
No, as we could see, that does not work out.
Well, it's just fuel for his opponents to use. Mm-hmm. It's like you hear the audience saying, like, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. And I almost kind of interpret that as like, no, Bird's advice would actually be right this time. You're like, I appreciate of your honesty and everything, but you are tanking your career if you do this.
Yeah.
So let's see how that turns out.
Yep.
The Reynolds pamphlet.
The Reynolds pamphlet.
So I watched a drunk history clip of Lin-Manuel Miranda going over this part of this, and literally everyone told him not to do this, not to release the Reynolds pamphlet, and he just did it anyway.
The thing is, he was so concerned about work and his professional reputation, he didn't think about his personal one, his family at all.
Yeah, like some people literally said, maybe people will be more upset at you having an affair than a rumor of you embezzling funds.
Well, I don't even think it's just that. He didn't even go over it with Eliza. She found out from the pamphlet.
Yeah.
That is messed up.
Yep.
You should consult with your wife about this. Now her reputation is ruined. Everyone thinks of her as just the idiot that whose husband cheated on her.
Yep.
And Angelica comes to console her, and Hamilton, you're an idiot.
Yep. Let's move on.
Next is congratulations.
Which was cut and folded into the song.
It's a bonus. Yeah.
Congratulations!
This is one of my favorite things that got cut. I'm so upset it got cut because it was amazing. I loved it.
Talk about it.
By the way, Kyle can tell you, I just sang the whole thing.
Again, what was wonderful to watch.
Because I'm just like, Angelica, like, he says sacrifice, and Angelica goes, boy, you don't know sacrifice. And it was really good.
She sacrificed her life to go live in a loveless marriage in London.
Although in reality, I think it was an okay marriage. Like, she did actually was okay with him or whatever. But like,
consider the time.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was. Oh my god. And she brings him back to her by telling him, no, Eliza's the most important thing in your life. You need to prioritize her. And for the rest of your life, you better do everything you can for her.
And she's basically like, yeah, your work is not an excuse anymore. You blew that.
Yep. So yeah, it was amazing. It's one of my favorites.
I think the sister bit really gets you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have a younger sister, and I would protect her with everything,
All right, you want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, this is also one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, we got so much more heartbreak going on here. We got Burn.
Yep. So this is really cool because it's another song born out of we don't know what happened in history. Literally all we know about how Eliza felt or how she reacted to this is we know that there were some burnt letters because there were some missing letters, and we know that they were burnt. And that's all we know.
She burned them to erase them.
Yeah, that's literally all we know about how she reacted. So I love that this song
really leans into that.
Yes, it's really great.
Yeah, it's so much like burned bridges and fury and betrayal. There's so much emotion in this song.
Yeah, and I really like, the part where she's like, the world doesn't get to know what I said, because I feel like, she wouldn't have publicly come out and said anything. Anything she would have felt or said would have been said in private to Angelica or Hamilton himself.
You really get the feeling that if Hamilton had just come to her, this affair thing could have been sorted out. They
Yeah.
could have moved past it. But he announced it to the world, and now they don't get that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that this song really explains how saying it to the world is really what broke her the most about it, because it was just such an awful thing to
Callous.
do to her. Yeah, exactly. And I just feel like you really get to know that in this song. Because she doesn't sing that, like, you betrayed me by sleeping with her or anything like that. She literally says, you told the whole world how you brought this girl into our bed, you know? And I really think that's important to her because, like, for example, now their children are going to be tainted with this for the rest of their lives, you know?
And she kicks him out. She breaks up with him.
Yeah,
basically.
but yeah, as
Separates.
much as you
Separates, yeah.
Yeah, as much as you can in that era. She tells him he has to sleep in his office, you know?
And she says that she wishes that he would burn.
Yeah.
Now we have one more. It's another take on this betrayal. It's called First Burn. It's another
Yes,
one of the
I
bonus
actually
ones.
like this version better.
Oh, this is my favorite one of,
Yeah.
of the three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like my favorite.
Oh, really?
I sang the whole thing again.
Again? So what do you think?
I really like this one because it feels like in the moment. Like, because in the song, she's literally, don't come near me. And she's literally like, you can stand over there if you want. You know, it really feels like she's confronting him and telling him this face to face.
Yeah, it adds a lot of extra context to the burning of the letters. Like, one line I think that really stands out is she goes, your enemy whispers, and so you have to scream.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, that really gets me. And another thing is, like, and you, like, explain to the children what you put their mother through. And, like, also, like, they're your legacy, because they're his kids.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be the ones here after he's gone.
Yep.
And she just felt like he completely disregarded that and threw that away for himself, his own name,
Yep.
you know?
And not only that, she points out, like, I know about whispers. I've seen how you talk to my sister.
How you look at my sister.
Yeah, and points out how he is with Angelica because basically you already had a freebie. Like,
Yeah, like she admits that she knows that they're closer than, I don't know.
but she says it almost in a way that's like permissible. Like if you really wanted an affair, there was already someone here you could have done that with. You didn't have to go elsewhere.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't think that's really.
I think it's the subtext. It's the subtext.
Yeah, fair enough. But and also how she is like, no, look, I know how you are with women. I'm not stupid, you know? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like that was a really good thing too, because like, like for example, in Helpless and stuff, you see Eliza as some love-struck woman who falls for her Hamilton, and like that's all she is, you know? She's his wife or whatever. But this shows that like, no, she knows how he's like, and she knows that he flirts with other women and stuff. And it just really makes her feel like more of a full-fledged person, I feel.
All right. Well, next is Blow Us All Away.
Yep.
So we're caught up on what Philip, Hamilton's son, has been doing in the meantime. He's now a young man.
He went to college and graduated.
And he is just as much of a ladies' man as his father is.
Yep.
Flirts with women like crazy.
Yeah.
And ends up in getting into an argument about Hamilton's controversial reputation, right?
Yeah.
It's another influential young man named Eaker. Mm-hmm. Anyway, he goes to Hamilton, asks for advice. You know, Eaker challenges him to a duel. They get into a duel. And Hamilton encourages Philip to go along with it. But Hamilton, his thing is like, Aim your gun in the air, make it clear you have no intention of killing. Therefore, your opponent, who is surely a man of honor, will refuse to kill you as well. That's the solution to this duel, right?
Yeah.
Philip gets to the duel. On the count of 10, Eager shoots him at 7 before they even finish the count.
Yep.
Any thoughts, Kira?
It's just sad, because, like, he got shot defending his dad's honor.
And Hamilton, like, why would you assume that you're going to be dealing with someone who's a man of honor?
Yeah, why would you tell him to go through with this?
Well, but see, the assumption, though, implies that the person you're going against doesn't want to kill you. It's the whole, like, going the higher road philosophy while the other person's constantly kicking you in the shin.
Yeah.
Okay, next is Stay Alive reprise.
So Philip dies from getting shot because medicine wasn't very advanced back then, and they couldn't save him.
He was fatally wounded, and Eliza freaks out upon figuring out what's going on.
Yep.
Because someone shot her son, and apparently her husband, her son's father, just let it happen.
Yeah.
And she's like, did you know? And it's like so incriminating in her voice. Because you know he knew. Mm-hmm. And she knows he knew.
Yeah.
And it's just so sad because they do the old like French piano key thing as Philip dies, and then he just stops responding. Mm-hmm. And that's when Eliza just loses it. Mm-hmm. You want to go to the next one?
Yeah.
It's Quiet Uptown.
It's quiet uptown.
This one's just really sad.
Yeah. This might be my favorite. I don't remember which one's my favorite anymore. This one just really gets me. See, I kind of have a problem where it's almost impossible for me to cry. I mean, Kira, you're aware of this.
Yeah.
But I don't know why, but there's just so many times where I feel sad, but I just can't get my body, my face to react, right? Mm-hmm. So anytime I do it, because it does happen sometimes, it takes a lot to get me over that edge. And this song was one of the few things that has really made me cry.
Yeah. I know.
Because, like, they're mourning Philip's death, Hamilton and Eliza, and they're still separated. And she has every reason to hate him and to despise his guts. He ruined his career. He ruined her life. He ruined their reputation. He betrayed her. He slept with another woman. He led their son to his demise. And despite all of that, he begs for forgiveness. And he doesn't deserve it. And she gives it to him anyway.
I think it's because that's all she's wanted from him, is just them, their family, to be together, and that would be enough. And he finally, after losing Philip, realizes that that's what's important, is that he just comes home every night and is with his family.
This song is not about perseverance or Hamilton or anything. It's about how good of a person Eliza is for being willing to forgive. And that's what gets me. Mm-hmm. And I can really relate to that as someone who has done bad things. It makes me think of you.
Why?
Why you put up with me.
You definitely haven't ever done anything as bad as Hamilton.
Whatever. Let's just move on to the election of 1800.
Yep. We can be like James Madison, be like, please?
The election of 1800.
So, Yeah, this was interesting.
Yes, it starts off by explaining the next election, the election of 1800, right? Mm-hmm. And it's John Adams versus Jefferson. However, Burr has emerged as a popular centrist candidate. People see him as a less extreme version of Jefferson, right?
Yeah.
And you see him on the campaign trail.
Well, because they're on the same, they're the same party right now. So
Yes.
yeah, that's why.
So Burr's on the campaign trail actively campaigning, which is new.
Yeah.
So this is going to become a regular thing. And the things that the people are saying about Burr are like your common everyday hearings about politicians.
Oh my God, it's
I feel
so
like
ridiculous.
I could get a beer with him.
He's the president. Why do you care how approachable he is?
Isn't that the number one qualification for presidents, though? How intoxicated they can get? Oh, it's not? There's stuff that's more important than that? What? And it's really scary to hear all the things that Burr's been saying, but now on a national platform. Mm-hmm. It's everything we've feared in Burr come to manifest.
Yeah.
Because it's so creepy and hollow. He doesn't stand for anything.
Yeah, like in the beginning, Jefferson says that he's literally doesn't come forth and say what stance he has. He will obfuscate and go around it. He doesn't want to tell people what he believes.
Right. He stands for nothing.
Yep.
He just wants the power to then do whatever it is he thinks is right, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. He's an opportunist. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so Madison advises Jefferson, well, you know what would help? Hamilton's endorsement. He's a controversial figure, but enough people still like him that it would swing the vote.
Yeah.
And Hamilton ends up doing it. When Hamilton gets enough pressure on who he would support, Burr or Jefferson, Hamilton turns against his friend Burr and goes, I've never agreed with Jefferson once, but he at least has beliefs. Burr has none.
Yep.
And it's just like, whoa, shots fired. And
Yeah.
part of me respects that, to be honest.
Yeah, because he stuck to his principles at the end. Like he decided that, you know, for his principles that Jefferson has beliefs and that's more important.
Yeah, I don't know. I just, the way I see it, like in the modern day, I see it as like voting for like an old time Republican versus like a new current day one. Next is obedient servant.
Your obedient servant.
I feel like there were definitely letters signed "Your obedient servant," and that's where this.
Yeah, that's where the name of the song comes from.
Yeah.
It's like passive aggressive.
Yeah.
So the beginning of this song is amazing because it's like dark and unhinged. Mm-hmm. The beat to the melody keeps changing between previous tunes we've heard before.
Yeah.
Where Burr's just like, how could Hamilton have done this to me? You've kept me from the room where it happens for the last time.
Yeah.
And
The truth is, Hamilton didn't do this to you. It wasn't about you. You know?
and he's been telling you this the whole time. You just weren't listening.
Yeah. Like, he's blaming Hamilton for his failure as a person to stand up for what he believes in.
And he may be vice president now because he got runner-up to the election.
I think he may be, but only temporarily, because I think Jefferson changes it so that James Madison can be his vice president.
Well, no. Okay, so he is the vice president because that's how it happens. The runner-up becomes vice president. But then Jefferson immediately adds in, I think, the 11th Amendment, which changes that so that now that there is no runner-up system, if you lose, you lose. Presidents now pick their vice presidents.
Oh, I see.
So he's only the vice president until Jefferson does away with him.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, he knows his career is over. Mm-hmm. And he blames Hamilton, challenges him to a duel. Mm-hmm. Hamilton accepts, because of course he does.
Yep.
Next is Best of Wives and Best of Women.
Best of wives and best of women.
So the Best of Wives and Best of Women is from the letter that he left Eliza before he went to the duel.
Yeah, the morning before the duel. It's a short song, basically meant to contrast with what happens next.
Yep.
You ready?
Yep.
The world was wide enough.
World was wide enough.
This is just sad. I feel like Burr is being a bit bad about it just because he's like, yeah, you survived. You killed him. Okay? You killed him. Don't act like you're the victim.
Well, I don't know about that. So basically, they have their duel, and it's revealed to us why Burr has been narrating a lot of these songs. It's because he's the one who survives to tell the story.
Oh, yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
In fact, Hamilton's mostly absent from the song, except for the one part that he gets to say his bit, because we have to imagine what Hamilton's take on this was, because he didn't live to tell the tale.
Yep.
And yeah, Burr kills Hamilton in the duel, even though Hamilton does the whole raising the gun up and making it clear he had no intention of killing anyone. Burr immediately regrets it.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we should talk about, that as much as we've been, trashing on Burr, this song does a lot to try to paint him sympathetically.
Yeah, that's true.
Burr immediately regrets it. He only even shot because he was literally worried about his own life and providing for his daughter. But still, he shot him.
Yeah.
And he realizes, now I'm the villain in your history.
Yeah.
He's literally told to hide because he just killed Alexander Hamilton.
Yep.
And I should also mention, this is when dueling becomes illegal.
Oh, really?
Yes. This is the last high-profile duel to ever happen in America. Because after this is when we're like, okay, you just killed one of our leading officials. We maybe shouldn't allow this to happen anymore.
Yeah.
I'll talk more about this, but let's do the last song, the finale, the epilogue. Who lives, who dies, who tells your story?
You have no control. Who lives, who dies, who tells your
President Jefferson.
So this is Eliza's story.
Yeah. Despite her forgiving Hamilton, he went off and made another dumb mistake, got himself killed in a duel. And this song reframes the whole thing as where she says, I live another 50 years after this point. My life keeps going.
Yeah, I really like it because, the entire song, she's like, when my time is up, have I done enough? And it's just, and she even asks, like, will someone tell my story? And it's like, yeah, we finally get to hear her story because I really don't think a lot of history talks about her.
No, never.
Yeah.
So it was, it's nice to hear that. And it really puts into perspective like how much work she did, and she didn't get herself killed doing it,
Yeah.
and she has to do it without him, because for all of Hamilton's work, everything he accomplished, all of his talk of legacy, the person he left behind was his wife. And she had to carry that on.
Yeah.
Can we move on to start talking about like in-game stuff?
Yeah, sure.
What we think of the whole musical as a whole.
Yeah.
I should mention that you hear both President Jefferson and President Madison later giving credit to Hamilton, being like,
Yeah, Jefferson's what's kind of funny because he was like, his financial system was what did he say?
his financial system was a work of genius. I couldn't undo it if I tried. And I tried.
Yeah, I think that's funny because it's like, yep, Jefferson is a jerk even until the end.
Some people's takeaways from Hamilton are like, oh, it's weird for you to like glorify this founding father, this old rich white man of bankers and Wall Street and whatnot. And I would say, you didn't listen to the musical, did you?
Yeah.
Because I guess in a way they do kind of glorify him, and there's a lot to like there. But it's also the story of his fall. It's also the story of his compromises and his failings.
Yeah, exactly.
Because people are usually more complex than that.
And like, why him? And Angelica says it's like all the other founding fathers' story gets told. All the other founding fathers get to grow old. I'm sure a lot of them wrote memoirs or whatever before they got the time to do that before they died.
I also wanted to talk about Burr because I think it's an interesting lesson to take away from that.
Oh yeah.
I've seen takes that Burr is an anti-hero, is the anti-hero of the story. And I don't want to be like, oh, your take's bad, but I mean, come on, there are some takes that make sense and some that don't. And if you say Burr is the anti-hero, were you even listening to the story?
Yeah.
I think it's much more correct to call him an anti-villain.
Yeah.
An anti-hero is basically like, oh, they're a hero, they just don't act like it. Like Shadow the Hedgehog is an anti-hero.
Yeah.
He does good even if he's being a bad boy while doing it.
Yeah.
That is not Burr.
No.
No, Burr does bad even if he acts nice while doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's an anti-villain.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. I wonder if that's even a term. I've never heard that term before, anti-villain.
It is technically, but it's very underused.
Yeah.
Because I would call like King George is the overt villain, right?
Well, yeah.
But you know, even he gets put to the side and replaced by Burr.
Yeah.
I guess you could say Jefferson also
Is an antagonist.
is an overt antagonist, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Burr's an anti-villain. He seems to be your friend, but he's not. And I really think like the story of Hamilton is great as a human being, what to accomplish, what not to do, what failings to avoid, right? I feel like the whole idea of a revolution, you know, maybe we should,
Yeah.
we don't know what's going to happen. I'm just saying, but food for thought.
2020.
But-
making us consider revolution again.
But Burr, I think Burr's story is a cautionary tale of basically most politicians to come.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
It was almost like, I think, an omen for America.
Oh my God, yeah. Because he didn't have any beliefs. He didn't even stick to his party that he agreed with when the second it was
Found an opportunity.
Yeah, the second he got an opportunity to get some power.
Yep. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on here. We're probably going to have to end this soon. You got any final thoughts, Kira?
I think one of the most amazing parts about this musical is that we get Eliza's story as well, because I feel like I've never heard about anything she did after Hamilton died, but I really like that they, explained all that.
She fought against slavery, apparently.
Yeah, she was an abolitionist like him, and
Oh, can I go off on that?
Yeah, sure.
A lot of people talk about the people of the 1700s, the founding fathers, like, oh, they're a product of their time. Washington and Jefferson, they're products of their time. No. Because there were people at that time, Hamilton, Eliza, Ben Franklin. There were people then that knew slavery was wrong. They
John
were
Lawrence.
Yeah, they were abolitionists and they knew it was wrong. I mean, all the slaves, right?
Yeah.
So you can't just excuse people at the time just because those people had all the power. That's not okay. Because people are going to look back at our time and all the horrible things our governments do that we're not okay with. And what if they say, oh, well, it's just a product of the time and excuse that behavior? Because we're not going to do that. Do we want people of the future to do that? No.
No. We don't want people to look back and not see the resistance. So many people who are just like, no, we don't want this. Why?
Or so many people don't ever get any justice during their lives. The least you can do is remember the history as it was, unjust.
Exactly. You could remember the abolitionists and be like, you know what? Those abolitionists were good people somewhat, just because at the very least they knew slavery was wrong and they believed that.
All right. Well, I think that's good to end it on. We have a Twitter, Game Theorems. We have a Patreon. Just listen to our podcast, please. Get other people to listen to it. We put a lot of work into this. We're doing this while sick, so Now you're sick. Ha, that's how audio works, right?
Kyle. No.
All right, bye.
Bye.